let's dive into the top 5 things. So as we started looking at these classes and marketing this, and we did this before one other time, I think the top 5 things sometimes change. Nothing's static in our business. Things always change. So I'm going to do the countdown David Letterman style. For those that do not know who David Letterman is, go ahead and Google it. But he used to do a top 10, and we're going to do top 5 here, starting with number 5. And that is clear cooperation. So clear cooperation policy, CCP, has been under fire this last year. It was a policy put into place by the National Association of Realtors to basically defend a lawsuit from the Department of Justice that took place in 2014, and then onwards and forwards from there. And basically the policy says you can't advertise or promote a property. And if you do, you have to put MLS within 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can advertise and promote, but when you do that, you have to put MLS within 24 hours. Now, in my previous life of getting into this, in this industry of MLS world, as a broker, I sold some baseball players' homes. They don't necessarily, they have very private people. They have a lot of expensive things in their house, and they don't necessarily want their house plastered all over the internet or in the MLS. So on an exception like that, do we allow exceptions like that?
Yes.
Okay, so we do allow exceptions, but here's the thing. If I took the exception and I did the, the exclusive, and I did off market, can I advertise it in Facebook?
No.
Can I advertise a sign in the front yard?
No.
No. So as long as you're not advertising it, right, which leaves you then to go out and get your buyer some other place, then you can, withhold it from the MLS, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And
we do have a form for that.
we do have a form, so we can share that form.
Get it loaded and I'll share screen.
It's called the non-participation form in the MLS. So you can do that. We do allow that, and there are some privacy issues. I had a surgeon in town that had the same issues. I had a father who was selling a house that had a baby that was premature, and they got to take it home, and they just don't want people in their homes. There's all kinds of weird things out there that happen in real estate. Real estate's not perfect. It doesn't fit in this box with a ribbon and bow on top. So we try to be understanding with the rules. So this is the non-participant agreement that needs to be signed, and the seller syndication opt-out form. And they can send this in, we'll send this in to us for our records so we can maintain those. But that's how that works. If they do not want MLS, that is, you can't be doing a bunch of marketing around it. Otherwise, you're in violation of clear cooperation. As long as you're not advertising it, okay, word of mouth, I would say it probably doesn't cover it. But if you're doing a billboard, if you go pop it onto a flyer and hand it in the Home Depot's parking lot windshields, or if you have it on Facebook or Google or LinkedIn, that's advertising. Within 24 hours, it needs to be on the MLS. Now, this fine, this violation that will cost you is $500 for the first offense. And it is pretty much instant. You have the 24 hours to remove it. So a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm not going to remove it. I'm still going to keep it and do what I got to do. All right. They get their fine. But this is the $500 fine. It's one of the heftiest fines we have on a first offense. But it's also important to know that, the idea behind this is to have everything out there for all the buyers, right? To have everything out there in the MLS for sellers, for appraisers, and all this other stuff. So everything is done for a reason. We do get this privacy issue. Like I said, I dealt with those personally. But that's a clear cooperation, $500 fine if you don't have it in there.
And what about coming soons? Because that's the biggest question that I don't think we touched on.
Yeah, it's coming. We don't really do a coming soon. I mean, we don't support that in our MLS. I will tell you, part of the issue, and I talk about this a lot, and I'll talk about it here, I've been pretty vocal about it, is the fact that we're in the Southwest Florida Alliance. And we share a common platform. So it'd be like if I was sitting here and I'm pick a name off here, Amy, and I shared a iTunes account and I downloaded on my iPhone an app, it's going to show up on her iPhone as well. Okay. We are sharing with our partners to the south the same platform. We're sharing the same database. So if we make a move, if we want to add in there luxury vinyl plank flooring as a drop-down option, everybody has to agree to have that done. And again, it's one vote per MLS. There's 3, and it's all or nothing. So it's not even a majority. And those rules were written back when we wanted to share data. For those of you who have not been in the business for going back to 2011, quick math, 14 years, we had to be a member of, at the time, Cape Coral, MLS and Association, Fort Myers, MLS Association, Bonita Estero, Sanibel, Naples, and Marco. There was 7 MLSs and associations down here in Southwest Florida. When we did the data share, again, negotiations, that was the agreement we had. So is it antiquated and outdated today? I don't know. But part of it is we have to have that agreed upon. So coming soon is a conversation around the country. Some MLSs do offer it. There's a lot of issues around it.
So the point to it is, though, marketing anything on social media, putting any flyers out there, anything like that, where you would advertise something is coming soon. That is, what we see the biggest pitfall for clear cooperation is.
Sure, they advertise the market is coming
and it's
soon.
not, you're still marketing the property. So the moment you put anything out coming soon, it better be coming within 24 hours.
Right, coming soon is 24 hours or less.
Yeah.
In our world. So, but there are statuses out there that are coming soon statuses. As we evolve, as we modernize the MLS, those conversations at your MLS committee are being had. And how can we help propel us forward? Again, the idea behind what we're trying to do here, I think, is try to be consumer friendly, fair, provide good data. And, we're really trying to do that. So, all right. So that's clear cooperation. That's a $500 fine, pretty hefty. Yes, coming soon. If you advertise it in that context, there is no such thing. It has to be in the MLS within 24 hours. All right. Next is data integrity is the next costly thing. And this costs more than just in the financial aspect of it. So I'll unpack that part first. From a financial impact, you're going to get a call from Amy here in the MLS compliance department saying this information is wrong, whether it's the fees that come for HOA, the direction the lanai faces, southern exposure, northern exposure, bedrooms, baths, sometimes they get that wrong because they are non-conforming, non-permitted. Car spaces, somebody put a 3-car garage last week, it's actually 2.5, but you only have 2 width. The half is this extra space. The builder's like, let's just extend it out and make it like this little area you could put some storage bins. We don't call it a 2.5. There's no 2.5 in our MLS. Those things that are data integrity driven, you will get zapped on. It's 72 hours to correct. So we give you an email say that you're in violation. You'll probably get a phone call from Amy as well. You're in violation. Then you'll be able to fix it. You'll have 72 hours to correct it to make sure the data is correct. If it's not, then it goes into the mode of finding. And we're using a thing called listing data checker that allows us to use artificial intelligence, word search, and other rules to pull this information out. In addition to that, realtors are really, really good at reporting other violations. So we're also getting to report it through the triangle on your MLS screen, or the bottom it says report a violation.
There's a violation.
Yeah, if you believe there's a violation. So we research every one of those, and then upon successfully determining that it is a violation of our rules and regulations, then we start the process again. An email, phone call, 72 hours, correct it, you get fined. Again, I don't think that we've ever been, at least in my tenure here, real big on fining. It's a necessity sometimes when people just don't want to do it. But our number one focus is data integrity. So where this is costly is not only the fine, but having bad information.
Right.
Can you imagine doing a comp on a house that
totally
the bedrooms were wrong, or the square footage was wrong, or that it said it had a pool and it didn't have a pool? that information, like, it should be the source of truth. So when I go to it, it should be 99.9% accurate,
Mhm.
right? 100% is always the goal. But we owe it to every single one of the subscribers that pay their subscription every year, that use this to do comparables, to use it to talk to a seller about a price reduction, to use it to market a property, or to use it to show buyers a home. That information should be accurate.
Mhm.
The reason why Google Maps has such traction on it is that it's accurate, right? It's accurate to the point where they have traffic patterns on it.
Mhm.
It'll tell you the quickest way to go to someplace based on traffic. So if it wasn't useful, people would not use it.
Mhm.
So we want our MLS to be useful. We want you to be able to go in there and have some certainty with whomever your customer is at that point in time, that the information in there is accurate and factual.
Mhm.
So it could be costly, and the integrity of it. And I'll tell you, as a buyer's agent, when you go into a house and it's supposed to have 4 bedrooms and it's supposed to have a den, but it doesn't. It's an area in the corner that they put a hospital partition up. It's not even a room, right? And that's their den. Or, it's a 3-car garage, it's really 2.5, or 2 with a doggy door and a kennel. It makes that agent lack integrity and competency with that buyer.
Mhm.
And that cost of your reputation, of who you are as a professional, is more than money could ever pay for, because it takes forever to build your reputation up, but it takes moments to make it go away. And I remember personally going and showing houses and like, no, there's no canal here,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna say
So,
something.
yeah, talk to them a little bit about how it affects your sellers, right? It can be very costly as a listing agent to have bad data. And we've got, a lot of us see it in the MLS. You look at a listing, you're like, God, this agent's just lazy. Some of it's genuine mistakes, some of it's laziness, some of it's lack of respect. But as a listing agent, it could be costing you your entire listing to have bad data if it's not syndicating properly.
Right, because people see that, right? How many tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people see that listing, and if something's wrong with it, and it's out there in all these different portals,
Mhm.
and people are making buying decisions based on that, right? And decisions on whether or not to even look at a property based on what it says.
Mhm.
It can be extremely costly. That seller, you owe your seller 100% accuracy on that listing. And I would tell you, and again, I'm not your broker, I'm not your lawyer, not your therapist, but your broker would make this decision as a policy, as I did in my office, is I had every single seller sign off on that listing and go
Mhm.
through it with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the ownership to be on the broker. And I had a conversation this morning. It's like, it's not, I had a mentor tell me when I was a broker, it's not if you're gonna get sued, it's when you're
Mhm.
gonna get sued, right? So accuracy of data is huge. And sellers, when their homes don't sell, and in today's marketplace, they're sitting in the market longer, they want to know why. And they're gonna nitpick that listing. They may not sign up front, but 6 months later, like, the house didn't sell, what are you guys doing about it? And they find out that something very small, like square footage, is
Bad
wrong.
data.
Right, and we had the issue, we had a true story. It was back in November 23. I was sitting in my office, it was a Friday at 4 o'clock, and this customer called me. And I remember it because we had a great conversation, and he went to a rival high school from where I'm from. That's why I remember this guy, but he had in the MLS, they fat fingered the square footage from 1060, it was supposed to be 1,600 square foot, 1,652 or whatever. It was 1062.
Oh, no.
So took 600 square footage off. Nobody recognized it. Nobody saw it. The listing agent had it out there. Now, how many of you would want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's 10,062 square feet or 1,062 square feet?
Yeah.
Nobody would. How big are those bedrooms? Like 5x7s,
Mhm.
right? But he had that in the MLS for 4 months.
Yeah.
So his customer called me to complain about and basically terminated that agent, complained, and thought the Realtor Association, which we do not for the record, should recommend a better agent than what he had.
No.
we don't do that, but
That's the thing, you can easily, by putting in the wrong data, filter your listing out of the right hands.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of realtors, that get creative. You guys are really good at getting creative. That's not a bad thing, but at some points, you think, well, it could be this and it could be that. It could work as commercial. Well, now that you've put commercial on there, it's not going to any portals that don't support commercial. There's small little things like that that affect the data, that domino affect you into being either filtered out of somebody's specific portal or filtered out of a website completely. So it's important to only put the specifics of the property and not the possibilities of what it, could be or possibly, or, don't far stretch with the data.
yeah, no, you have a great point there. I mean, I had somebody argue with me about putting a single family home in an investment property because they had it rented for 7 years and they have a great cap rate.
Mhm.
I'm like, nobody on Zillow is gonna see that home.
Yeah,
Nobody's
don't
searching
do
investments
commercial.
as their primary residence,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, do the right thing by your seller. Back in real estate school, you probably heard of highest and best use. Don't get creative, right? This would be better used as a dump. No, I mean, it's a single family home. Like, put it in what it is. So yeah, to your point, yeah, you can filter out your best buyer yet.
Mhm.
By putting bad information, you can filter that one buyer out.
Mhm.
That would be the best buyer that actually would show up, see the house, fall in love with it, write a contract. So yeah, don't get creative with it, but that could be very costly. So bad data, not only on the fines, but I mean, also appraisals. How many of you had a bad appraisal that ever happened?
Mhm.
I've had, through my years, I've had dozens. And then you look at the comp, you're like, I know that's not a 3-2, that's a 2-2.
Mhm.
And then you gotta go through and look at it. I mean, it's bad.
Is it a
It affects
tutu or is
everything.
it a kilt?
Yeah, it's a kilt.
It's
It's a kilt, St. Patrick's Day.
There's St. Patrick's Day joke for you.
All right, so my next one, number 3, that was number 4. Number 3, buyer broker agreements. Not using them. So when we had our NAR lawsuit settlement, it's almost a year anniversary on the 14th. The 14th was our 1 year anniversary of the lawsuit settlement. The announcement came out. I remember sitting in my office, everybody was watching it on the same screen we're in front of today, in the office, about this announcement from NAR that they settled the lawsuit. And they had 2 business practices that we've adapted to. One was take the commission out of the MLS.
Mhm.
And then secondly was you must have a buyer broker agreement if you're gonna show a property. Prior to showing the property, not after. So we've taught on this, we've talked about it, we've written about it. We've done buyer broker, we've done broker office visits and talked about this topic. And we still, as recently as today, get calls going, I don't think this person's doing it, using a buyer broker agreement. We've got the right, based on our rules, to ask for a copy of it. We do not share it with anybody else. Just like we don't share a listing agreement with anybody. It's for internal validation only. But not using one is costly. Now, on the fining structure, what is the fine on a buyer broker, not using a buyer broker agreement? $1,000 the first time, right?
$1,000, you thought clear cooperation was bad.
Yeah, $1,000. And we have people put and same thing for commission in MLS.
Yeah.
We've had people put commission MLS, had a $1,000 fine. Some people just wrote the check, right? Because they knew they were caught. But with this, do it. And here's why. So the costliness is not necessarily the fine you get, although it's expensive. In my mind, and when I started in real estate, I had a mentor that told me, never take somebody out the buyer broker agreement because all you're going to be is a shuttle service.
Mhm.
And I started before
Tour guide
Uber.
for the weekend.
Yep, tour guide for the weekend, right? They'll get free lunch from the realtor.
Mhm.
I mean, when I retire, maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
They treat it like the timeshares. You go, you spend a little bit of time, you get the free food.
Yeah, and they don't want to buy anything, right? But here's why it's important to buy a broker agreement. And I'm gonna give you 3 things that you need to talk about. And if you're taking notes on any of this is the area you should be. Number 1, you get it beforehand, right? I recently went through, and this is the first time since I've been in Florida, I've not been licensed. Going through the process of working with a realtor and having them explain it to me, because I went into the situation through a buddy's brokerage and didn't want the realtor to know what I did for a living, or what I did prior for a living. So they treated me like Joe Schmo off the street. I was to them, I was a call-in, and that's how they got the lead. They had no idea what I was doing. And I made the agents tell me what the buyer broker agreement meant. And, one guy said, "Yeah, this is some kind of BS, document you got to get signed because of NAR lawsuit." And I'm like, what's this number? He goes, "Well, that's my commission." Who's paying you that? Well, you are, right? So, but if you could take a proactive approach, right? And I use the second agent as an example, who, by the way, that agent was very seasoned. The new agent was new, hasn't been through this, but also didn't have the bad habits necessarily. But she went through and explained every part of that buyer broker agreement in extensive detail. And I know she had notes, she had laminated, and they came out of a portfolio she had, and they were laminated. There were her notes on the agreement that were highlighted, and then she laminated. I didn't care. I didn't feel like she didn't know what she was talking about. How I felt as a consumer was that she was going to be very detailed. And she did that. And I didn't know how long she was in the business, by the way. I didn't ask that, right? So I didn't know how long. I found out later. But I'm like, okay, she's just making sure she's dotting her I's and crossing her T's. Good. As my biggest investment I'm going to make and trust you with that, as a consumer, that's what I want. I felt nothing about that piece of it. Not even as a, wearing my hat today and wearing a broker hat before. It was a non-issue for me to see her read that off to me and go through every single bit and expand upon it. When she got to commission, she talked about it. And I asked her the question. I said, what does this commission, what are you going to do for it? And she pulled out another laminated sheet and went through 100 things she's going to do for me with regards to the commission piece. So she made me feel very, very comfortable. So number one is have that buyer broker consultation, in a private place, in a private setting, whether it's an office, a conference room, where have you, and have those conversations and be prepared to talk about it. Have those conversations, because that transparency is going to go a long ways for trust. I felt it. I felt more confident, which ended up being with a 3-month agent than I did with somebody that's been in for 10 years, just by the delivery of that. Number two, piece of the buyer broker agreement. Do you have a question you answer?
Yeah, it's a bit of a long question. I see we've got an anonymous question in the chat, and I don't want to, you've got a very long situation here. I don't want to bring it up in front of everybody. But if you want to email me, my email is Joanna, JOANNA @rpcra.org, and we can chat about it. And then I'll just leave the question at that.
Yeah, that's fine. So take the time, do the buyer consultation, set the time up, do an hour. That's what I, as a consumer, that's what I took on both of them. From the consumer standpoint, it felt very, very comfortable on both situations. They went through basically the whole process, the inspection. The one young lady left me, basically a folder full of the as is contract blank, all this other stuff. And I felt like I left her, like I felt comfortable working with her. I felt actually more comfortable working with her than the other one. So take the time to buyer consultation, get your buyer broker agreement up front, okay? Number two is that this is a contract, right? This is an employment agreement between a buyer and you, okay? And understand, that you can get the commission from wherever for your payment, and not necessarily them cutting you a check, but you need to be able to explain that. And I think both people I sat with did an okay job of explaining that. She did better than he did, but explaining, the same stuff that I've spoken about, which is I'm gonna try to get it from the seller first, right? If there's not a co-broke, and we'll try to get it from the seller's agent. There's a co-broke. From the seller, there's not a co-broke. And then a concession or right into the contract, and last but not least is you. So 4 different ways of getting that prior to closing. So make sure that's there, and understand the exclusivity of it, and explain to them, because a lot of people had conversations at meetings I was at about, what if they sign multiple buyer broker agreements? Well, it's our fault. And in both my cases with both agents I worked for, by the way, both were from the same office. They talked about the fact that, you're going to sign this, it's exclusivity with me as a buyer rep. And that if I used another agent, right, outside their firm, because they work in the same firm, that I would probably be on the hook for multiple commission payments.
Mhm.
It's okay to tell people that. And I knew that obviously from what I'm doing. But the average Joe would not, right? I look at my uncle and aunt who, come down and buy a house and not having that explained to them. And them out, gallivanting one Sunday afternoon, going to open house, signing another one because they're used to signing them, right? And find out that they're on the hook for 2 commissions. So I think that that's important, that you explain that it's exclusive to them. All right, are there more questions up there
No.
for us? All
You're
right,
good.
perfect. All right. So that was number 3, buyer broker agreement. Number 4, and this is one we're going to show you some help with here, but one of the things that I was, from a consumer standpoint, again, being a consumer recently, that I was concerned about with all the tools out there, and we talk about them on a lot of MLS Mondays,
We do.
how little people know about the houses that they're selling. Right, even when going into, the situation, not to get into gory details about me, but I had an agent that was kind of too comfortable in his own skin, and then a new agent. And again, I always tell people, if you're new in the business, go out and go to open houses, look at vacant property, do analysis, look at the tools in the MLS to know what the market value is. Knowing the market is so critically important. When I'm asking as a consumer, because again, I have access to a lot of stuff, but even as a consumer, if I'm looking, and you have consumers out there have access to the internet and Google and everything else, Chat GPT, I'm going to ask you your opinion as a professional, right? Even if I go in the doctor, I know the rash is a spider bite, I'm still going to say, Doc, what is this?
Yeah.
Because it might not be that. I may be wrong. So even if the consumer knows, they're still going to ask questions. And so asking both of these parties about the market, why is this house on the market so long? That was my perception. The house was on the market for 160 days. That seemed long to me, right? What did you think? I said to both of them, I said, what do you think about the price of this house? Well, they had no idea, right? So I go find out what's going on. In my mind, when I'm paying somebody and I'm on the hook as a buyer on a buyer broker agreement, I want them to know this information. I expect it because they're selling product. I mean, it's like going buy a pair of tennis shoes, right? You buy a pair of clouds and asking what the lifespan of that cloud is. How many steps can you get on? And the guy knows it, right? I feel more comfortable about that. And that's a pair of shoes for $200. This is a house for $600,000 that people are like, well, I don't know why it's on the market for 160 days. You should know. If you're going out and showing houses, it's not just about going to showing time and setting appointments up. You should be analyzing every single one of those homes, why it's been on the market longest. What's the pricing like on that house? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff you should do in preparing to go out to have those questions available and ready to answer. So with that, let's share some of those tools we have. Because as a consumer, I was extremely frustrated. And most of y'all, you've been licensed and haven't bought a house since you've been licensed. You probably represented yourself. I've done the same thing. The first time I had realtors since I was in Dallas. And now that I'm so keen into it, I realize why I was such an idiot when I was in Dallas, like a hard customer to deal with, because just the way I am, like I want to know stuff, and I'm willing to pay for service, but I want the person to know.
Right.
If I walk in and go, Doc, what is this? And I've already Googled it, and it's a spider bite. He goes, hang on a second, let me get my medical dictionary out here and look at it. Like I'm gonna be. Like, I expect you to know.
Like I already uploaded my photo to Google and Google analyzed it.
I already know what it is. It's like, why do I have to tell you how to do your job?
All right, so we've got a couple of tools inside of the MLS. And if you were with us last week, we already went into the gory detail of this, and you'll be able to watch it soon on our YouTube channel as well. But we have Domus Analytics right here on the dashboard. And this has multifaceted parts of the tool broken down inside of it. You can do simple market infographics, you can do market review, but if you're really looking to analyze the data, analyze the market, figure out what's going on in certain neighborhoods, you're going to want to use market insights here. Take a deep dive into that information. Again, we went through this in depth last week, so I'm not going to bring you through all of the details here, but you have a lot of filters, you have a lot of capabilities to be able to analyze that data here and keep an eye on it, and sometimes they'll ask you very specific questions. People want to know in general what the market is doing, but they might say to you, how many new listings in specific are there? How many, what's the median you know, some people get obsessed over like square foot price. You can pull that in here. You have a lot of those capabilities. And once people start really getting serious about specific properties, you can use this pricing insights tool to compare that property to other listings that may be around it. It will create a scatter plot and drop your exact square footage and pricing in that scatter plot and show you like a really where you land amongst the stars for other properties that are listed in the MLS. So if you've never been on our MLS Mondays where we've covered this before, go check out our YouTube channel. That will be up in the next week. And then we also have inside of Matrix, there is a stats tool up top here, broken down into the different categories. Each of them work the same. So we'll hop here into residential. You've got a lot of preset system preferences, but you can also customize your search here. You can compare days on market versus list price. You've got original price versus sold price. Or if you just wanted to pull some hard data and customize it here, we could say, you know, in the previous month, and then you've got all these different statistics that you could choose from. We'll say, how many new listings were there? Not just how many active listings were there, but how many new listings were there? And let's break it out by, we'll do by sales price. It might give us a lot of data, but this is where you can get really, really specific. If you're working a niche market, if you're working a specific development, we'll do Pelican Preserve because they've got a lot that I can spell. I'll just pull one of these because Pelican Preserve is by far. But once you're done, you can click the generate button here. It'll give you data.
0.
I knew that was going to happen too. So I didn't do Pelican Preserve.
I'll do gateway. Do G8.
Yeah.
For 1.
There we go. No.
You found 0. Let's see. Do it by change your sale price. Do it by miles. Do it by city.
No, they're all gonna be the same city. So it'll be the same city here.
Oh, there's 1 month. Okay.
Yeah, because I just did the previous month, but you can build this chart out. You can see that this one's a little bit more detailed. Thomas Analytics, you can just go in there, you can move stuff around. It'll give you data right away. If you want to go and get more specific and pull very like niche data points, then I would suggest using Matrix in here to search out your data.
Yeah, if you did previous month and did year, you would see that how many
We'll do year to date.
yeah, you'll see new, so these are basically number of new listings by month previous year for that particular community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So January, the most things were listed. That makes sense to me. It's season, less things are listed now.
Yeah.
You can also do solds and compare those two. But everybody's gonna say, well, Jason, how do I know when I go out? How am I gonna have all these answers top of my head? Nobody's asking on the top of your head. You should have a rough idea to speak to.
Yeah.
And if they get too specific, then you have to do some research. But, you know, I would know in the neighborhood, and I did this job, so I get it. I would know in a neighborhood, if I was showing house at Pelican Preserve in a certain subdivision in there, I would know what sold the last month and what's new in the last month,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm looking for other things they might like. And
Yeah.
they may have picked something out that was on MLS and they liked it, whatever, maybe it's price point. Maybe step them up, you know, I hate that word, but you know, another 10,000 to get this extra whatever that they may not, it may have been in that price point where it was cut off.
Yeah.
My point is, I'm looking at what's in every one of those neighborhoods in detail, and I'm looking at price per square foot. I'm looking at all this information, so I know. And then taking some key notes so I can communicate with that buyer. So I know what's going on in the marketplace, because that's, you know, they can go look at houses on the market. They can go look at what's sold, they can look, but they don't have the analytical tools
Mm-hmm.
that you've got in here. Now, the other thing I'm going to share real quick, and as we're on the heels of TechCon, and we're going to have a great speaker with Heather Hayes on that on social media, is you've got this information. If you've got a market in an area that you're dominating,
Mm-hmm.
for me, back in the day with Moody River, you still find YouTube videos probably out there about it, but I would do market videos every single month. And I basically pulled up the overall infographic. I'd attach it to the post.
This one.
Yeah, you take that, you download it, you attach it to the post, beautiful background, right? That's new.
Yeah.
I would talk about the medium sale price. I would do it by city, break it down, and talk about new listings, what came on the market. And I'd attach a bunch of these different ones. I would do the video would be about high market stuff, and then the individual cities would be these graphics, and I'd have a post. But that's gonna separate you and give you the credibility that you understand the marketplace. I recently went in to look at a car. I've been looking at new cars. And the salesperson asked him 2 questions about that make and model that I knew the answer to, and he didn't. And I told him, I said, that's okay. I said, I don't need a test drive. I'm not gonna buy a car from somebody that doesn't know the product,
Mhm.
right? Same thing. People are not gonna buy a house from you if you don't know the product, if you know what's happening in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So know the market. There's tons and tons of tools out there for you guys to be able to really look at that. Become the market expert. That's who I want to buy my house from, is a person I see out there talking about it. People love that. And video will perform 3 to 7 times better than a post, but maybe you don't like video. Can you speak to the graphic and record your screen and do a PowerPoint and put those graphics in and not be on film? Yeah.
Mhm.
I had an agent that never was on film and would do 10 videos a month. And it was all PowerPoint screen capture stuff. It's not hard. Come to TechCon if you don't know how to do it. I'm going to keep pushing TechCon. I feel like I need this all time share in my next life here. All right. Next, number one, and this is the biggest one. And this to me comes out of this opportunity book too, which again, if you come to TechCon, you'll have it in your app. But rich media. So we get calls on the MLS,
Mhm.
and our team can speak to this as well. On their call, and they'll ask a question: why is my listing not selling? And do you see anything I'm not doing right? Is it set up right? They think they may not have pressed the launch button, right? And it's sitting
And they're
there.
like, is it active?
Yeah, is it what's going on with it? Obviously we all know price sells, right? So maybe you look at the price, maybe something that's been the market that long, go use this analytic stuff too to go get your price reductions,
Mhm.
right? I mean, your price improvements, that's what I call them.
Getting off
But
the track.
use
That's number
that.
one.
I know, but use that for that as well, because maybe your house isn't selling because of price. Maybe it's been the market 160 days and things have changed in that market. Maybe it was priced right at that point. Okay. And maybe the activity's dried up. But rich media is what can help sell your home. So there's a lot of data that I'll speak to at TechCon about this that supports it from NAR, supports it from CRS, supports it from some GRI courses that were recently redone about how rich media helps the consumer engagement and makes a property stand out. So when I talk about rich media, I'm speaking about basically 4 things. One is floor plans,
Mhm.
okay? Proven statistic, 87% of your buyers would like to see a layout. Photos don't do it for them. A photo of a bedroom, a photo of a living room, they don't know the flow. By the way, for those of you who moved down here, anybody at transplant, me included, houses are different built up north. They're different in Texas. They're different all over the place, right? Our homes have basically big great rooms, and you walk through the front door and they want to see the back of the house because you may have a pool there, right? So they're set up differently. Where I came from, you had a front door and a back door, right? We don't have that necessarily in Florida. You have a front door, you have a patio door, you have a garage door, you may have a side door into the garage door, but you don't really have a back door. So homes are different. People want to see the layout. People will use their home differently. Somebody that's retired or going to be retired, buying their second home down here in their mid-50s, may want a different layout. They may want 2 en-suites where they can bring a friend, another couple with them, or adult kids come and visit. They may want a different layout. They want to see what that looks like. So a flat 3D or a flat 2D floor plan is something that consumers look for. So Joanna, show us what we got that can help with that.
You do sound like a car salesman today.
Do I really? St. Patty's Day. I got my little shamrock on my pull over.
All right, so another tool that we've had plenty of videos on is Cubicasa. This is linked right from our dashboard right here. The Cubicasa with the little floor plan icon. This is a way to sign up for your account, because the Cubicasa will be an app on your phone that you will download. You'll primarily use it on there, but you want to use this link in the MLS to get your account, so that you can get your free floor plan and then all the discounts for any of the upgrades or anything like that. So to Jason's point, you can get that flat basic floor plan through the app, and then if you want to pay, you've got the different upgrades so that you can have like a 3D dollhouse look or anything like that. You can see in the example here, it's pretty simple. You walk through the house using that app. It's open in the viewer screen. It looks like this video right here, and it will help you walk through the home, telling you when to stop, when to start, you know, if you're too close to a wall, if you need to get closer. And as you walk through that home, it will build this floor plan for you. And within a couple of hours, typically, they send this over to you. You've got editing capabilities so that if you need to change any of the room labels on there, if you need to fix anything, you can. But just through walking a house and giving it a few hours, you will have this floor plan, and it comes over to you as a JPEG so that you can upload it right into the MLS.
Yeah, and so we brought this on last year to
Yeah.
our MLS. I saw them in September of 23 in New Orleans at CMLS. This technology, as those of you that know me, I have a pocket protector, I have a propeller in my head. Super nerd and geeked out when I saw this, because from your cell phone on an app, it's measuring the distance between you and the wall, you and the window. It's placing windows and doors on a floor plan within minutes. So great technology. I love it.
It'll do outdoor spaces too, your patio.
Yeah, do your patio. I mean, it's just a phenomenal tool. And this is what consumers want. This is what people are begging for. And we don't do it. And again, as a consumer, I'm just going to tell you my little story. When I was going out and looking at stuff, I asked probably a dozen times to my agent, can you get me a floor plan on this? A dozen times. And it's just because I wanted to know. Because again, I'm not going to waste your time or my time or the seller's time viewing the property if it doesn't match what I want. Okay. So use rich media. So number one is floor plans. Number two is 3D tours. Okay. 3D tour. So what constitutes a 3D tour? So it could be a video walkthrough. It could be a Matterport. What else?
I know that they've got some of the add-ons here too. There are a lot of different programs out there that do it, but they have what's called the Matterport, which gives you the dollhouse look, right? You can click through, you can walk through, and then, you know, to your point, you've got the video walkthroughs.
Video walkthrough, you get that from, you know, vendor. We got several of those vendors going to be sponsors at our TechCon.
At TechCon.
But yeah, I mean, they want that, you know, that experience of a you know,
They want
virtual
the real
tour,
feel.
the virtual tour of it, right? So video walkthrough, a Matterport, somebody actually physically walk through it. They want to have that feel. Virtual reality is something that is here. It's going to stay. Question?
So yeah, we got a question. It says, how much does Cubicasa cost us as RPCRA members? There is, they've got pricing. All of these products are different. So you can, for free, get one of these. And then there are upgrades for these different types. You know, they've got all these upgraded ones, the dollhouse. There's different prices for all of those, but as RPCRA members, you get 20% off of their pricing.
Right. And the flat one you get, the 2D basic, is free. Yeah, I mean, there's really no reason, and we're always looking at things to help with this rich media, whether it's, you know, floor plans or 3D tours. There are companies out there that do 3D tours. They'll stitch pictures together with music behind it. Remember, you're putting in MLS. It got to be non-branded. That will cost you if it's branded.
Yeah.
So you want to be non-branded. But number two is that virtual tour. People want to again shop from all over, you know, wherever they're at, right?
Yeah.
And have that experience. And, you know, again, when you share these listings with people and you can share the tour, and as a buyer's agent where I had a lot of remote people, and again, selling houses to people that never been to Florida, sending those things helps them narrow down their search criteria. So we're not doing our sellers justice if we're not putting some of this rich media in there. So that's one piece. And then number 3 is video. So video is something that, again, you can do walkthrough of the home. You can do video of the outside of the home. Videos,
Slides.
yeah. I mean, there's video is great. Video, what I call stops the scroll on social media. People that see video, they stop the scroll. And if you look at, social media in general, TikTok's like the number one, for viewing video right now. People just spend hours on TikTok, just watching videos. People love the video piece. So, whether it's, maybe not something you put in the MLS of yourself necessarily, but you walking through the home, explaining different features. Or I saw an agent that did a couple of what I call shorts. They were very short, 15-20 second videos. And she talked about the cabinets being soft closed and talked about the freezer. And she had these little shorts, and it was just, going on and on about the home. And she created the shorts out of the longer video she did. So the longer video was in the MLS, unbranded, of course. And, she didn't have anything on that. She had her brand on it, and she wasn't actually in the video at all. And then she spliced the shorts off of it to put on social media. So again, video, I think, is something that, from a rich media perspective, is probably critically important. And that would include drone photos. It would include drone video for anything you're doing on waterfront, anything that you're doing with acreage. If you're selling up in some of the more rural areas, that's important. People like to see that. And then the 4th thing with rich media, really is not a media, if you will, is your supplements. The more supplements you have, I mean, think about it. Buyer seller disclosure, for example, buyers want to know, right? And it's something you can provide them as you walk in the door and say, okay, here's the MLS printout of this home, and I've got the seller's disclosure, right? You look really super prepared, right?
Data is power, information is
power, data is power, exactly. So, that information in there, I don't really call it media, but it's something you can have. It's a benefit we allow. We've upped our experience for verbiage. We do have Agent 3000 that does description writing for you. So you have Agent 3000 if you want to use artificial intelligence, but utilize that. I know people say, well, people don't read the descriptions. They do. As a consumer recently, I read the descriptions, right? And I'll tell you off the bat, don't have spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, right? That doesn't look good. And guess who gets blamed if they don't know the difference? The buyer's agent, not the listing agent, right? But I did read all of them, right? I read every single one of them. So buyers do read. They do read the descriptions, make it colorful, make it accurate, provide detailed information. Knowledge is power. When buyers are using it to make a decision whether or not they're going to look at a house, because think about the buying process. I met my agents at their office. I signed a buyer broker agreement. I picked some house I like to see. I was selecting those homes based on rich media, based on the description of the home, and based on the photos in the MLS. Those were the things I was basing my decision to go look at the house. Did I not see houses that were probably a better fit for me? I know I did. But guess why they weren't a good fit for me at that point? Because they didn't have the things they need to make a decision. An informed consumer decision will always get you more buyers, right? Having those things that help them make that decision. And I didn't have it. And I knew there's some great houses that fit kind of in the wheelhouse I wanted, right? Kind of fit in the box. But I didn't go see them because I know the floor plan, no layout. There was a 2-sentence description and there was 8 pictures. I'm like, I for some reason, I don't waste my time. Right? They could have been a better house, folks, but part of your job as realtors is to market the home, right? As a listing agent, it's to market that home. It's what makes you different, right? Everybody's worried about disruption in the marketplace and people taking people's jobs and doing all this other stuff. Not putting a lot of effort in makes it easy if that's going to happen, right? I mean, put a lot of effort into it. But I can tell you as a consumer, I discounted homes and both agents said, I'm surprised you didn't want to see this house. And I said, if I don't find what I'm looking for in the ones that I selected based on all the knowledge that was given to me, then maybe I'll go to that one as a backup. But it wasn't on my trip out. I wasn't gonna waste my time on it because I didn't know the layout. I didn't know where the closets were. And there's nothing worse than again, I'm weird. I don't want windows in my closet. Sorry, I don't. I don't want windows in my closet, right? I want a toilet that's got a door on it, right? Not a bathroom, the water closet, right? I know I'm weird, but these are things I want. I can see those through a floor plan.
Well, and
so.
that's the thing. Well, whether it's through the floor plan or through the media, you say I'm weird, but I think all of our buyers are, right? They all have like that specific thing that they need, and it takes us back to the data integrity. If you're filling out a listing and you think nobody even looks at that, or oh, this doesn't matter, it does, because some weirdo is filtering by it.
They are, and that was that weirdo filtering by it. But I'm gonna tell you, there are probably homes I didn't go see that are on the market still today.
That would have been the perfect fit.
That would have been the perfect fit
Mhm.
if the agent took the time to put the rich media in to the listing.
Yeah.
I may have bought a different house. So
True.
take the time and take the effort. We upped our descriptions to 3,000 characters.
Mhm.
We upped our confidential comments to 2,000 characters. Use that to communicate to your colleagues that are sure to show that house. Let them know about the pet orangutan that may be loose when you enter the home. And then photos, we up to 50 on photos.
Mhm.
So 50 photos. And when I started at MLS years ago, we were allowed 20.
Mhm.
And we had to scream bloody murder to get to where we're at today with 50.
Yeah.
So
Well,
use that.
And with those 50 photos, make sure you're either typing out the descriptions for each photo or using the new tool of Recipe AI. That will write out the descriptions for the photos for you, because that is going to help you reach a whole nother portion of the market. People look at those details, but also it helps it be ADA compliant so that you're not missing out on those buyers either.
Yeah, it's another one. Recipe AI is great for description photos. Again, as somebody else in the buying process. And normally, folks, I wouldn't read as much as I didn't read my car manual before I bought it, right? But I do read the descriptions. I did read the descriptions of all the photos. And those, again, that didn't have descriptions on the photos, I discounted it because I couldn't tell what it was.
Right.
Based on the pictures. And again, I'm gonna tell you another thing, and you'll see them if you come to TechCon. We've got some great vendors there, right? For our photo piece.
Yes. Yeah, you've got really, really good vendors that will be there for photos.
Get a good photographer.
And they've got massive, like really good packages. You can start with just the basics, or you all these different add-ons. If you want that Matterport, most of them work with Cubicasa, so it'll plug right in with the tool that we already have. They'll do the dollhouse effect, they'll do the videos, they'll give you landing pages and all of that stuff too.
Yeah, and that's the other one, the rich media. If you got a non-branded landing page.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I had to do when we only had 20 pictures and 1,000 characters, right? And you had more than that.
I used to walk uphill in snow both ways.
Yeah, I mean, back in the
That's
day.
what you sound like.
But I used to do a single property website and attach it in the MLS because it had more photos. I had video, I had drones, I had all that stuff I wanted to add to it. We didn't have the capacity. So today we have the capacity. We have the capacity because we know what consumers want.
Yeah.
So, but that's my top 5. And I think we're at the top of the hour. So I do appreciate everybody jumping on here today and spending the festive St. Patrick's Day with us this morning. But yeah, it's important. And please, I do encourage you. I know we make jokes about the TechCon, but we do want to fill the house. Really, it's really, really good. This stuff is being talked about and shown, and the value of it. And it's why we do the TechCon that we do every year, and it's our 2nd year doing it. And I'm super excited. It's one of my favorite events that I go to, and I know I run it, but and Joanna actually runs it, but it's one of my favorite events I go to. And the speakers, I get something out of it, and I'm plugged in and go to a lot of conferences and spend a lot of time learning. So if I'm getting a ton out of it, you guys will get a ton out of it too. So that's all I got.
All right. We'll see you guys next Monday.